Good morning. Hope you refreshed that coffee. We're back talking with Emily Tracy, running for state senate this November on the Democratic ticket. But first, a big thanks to Middle Park Medical Center, mpmc.org. Brand new medical facility right here in Grand County, and you can get all the services you need right here in the county. You no longer have to go to Denver, which is a huge deal for all of us that live local and that are visiting and potentially risking injury on the ski hills. So, Emily, we were talking that you are running for state senate, not
Correct.
the state House of Representatives,
Right.
and I'm a little foggy on Colorado's upper politics. So, there is a Senate and a House.
Right, right. And don't feel bad. There are many voters who think I'm running to go to D.C. when I'm definitely not doing
Senate,
that.
You know? Yeah.
But yeah, we have our legislature is in some ways similar to the U.S. Congress in that we have a Senate and a House. And the districts are roughly, a Senate district has roughly twice the population as a House district. And the lines get redrawn every 10 years after the census is done, so that we have districts that are roughly balanced by population. So every House district has roughly the same number of people. Every Senate district has roughly the same number, but twice as much as the House district. So the lines kind of overlap, but this district is a large 7-county district in northwest Colorado.
And it's a 4-year term.
Correct.
And how many state senators will be on the ballot for different regions?
Tough. I don't even know if I know that for sure. They're 4-year terms and they're kind of staggered. So there's some number that are up this year, but not all.
But
of
it
them.
is a every year constant, or
Yeah.
every 2 years probably.
Well, every 4 years for Senate, every 2 years for the House. So every representative in the House has to run for re-election every
2 years.
2 years.
Ooh.
So senators get 4, which
I've always
gives you a
wondered
little
how you
breather
can
in
possibly
there.
spend time focusing on what you need to focus on when you got to run a campaign.
Right.
every
I have that
2
very
years.
same question. Thus, I'm running for the Senate.
So we talked a little bit earlier, touched the diversity in District 8, and
Right.
it is a lot of different people with a lot of different passions all in one district, and you've got to somehow come in and try and appeal to the collective whole. How do you even begin to start that
Well,
process?
I think you do several things. Number one, you do need to learn about and recognize that there are a lot of differences. But I think what I face more often than not is that there are many commonalities because we're all west of the Continental Divide. We have a lot of shared interests, whether it's our rural economies or whether it's just getting resources out here on the Western Slope, protecting our Western Slope water. There's a lot more commonalities than there are differences. But if you look at it by county or by interest, you do see a lot of diversity there. Energy development in Garfield and Rio Blanco counties, coal in the far northwest corner, ski areas in Route, Grand, Summit, Garfield has a ski area. So you have a lot of diversity there. But I have been walking in all of these counties. Well, by the end of this week, I will have been in 6 of the 7 counties.
Yeah.
Miles on my I've worn out a pair of shoes and my tires. I keep checking my tires. But I've walked in, by the end of this week, it will be more than 12 different communities in these counties. And I find much more commonality there. Concern about money for public schools, concern about protecting our water so it doesn't all get shipped east of the divide, concern about the condition of our highways. People who live, for example, along the I-70 corridor are concerned about keeping that corridor open summer and winter because it means a lot of money in commerce and a lot of visitors and locals rely on that corridor.
Absolutely, it is our lifeline to everything.
So you do, and it may be my background in conflict resolution. I tend to find more commonalities than focusing on those differences. It just, as a candidate, I have to be really aware that, yeah, not everybody's in the same place. And, there are those differences, but I think it's my job to help find what those common interests and needs are.
So is there a lot of political games you're going to have to play, like what we're seeing all over the news right now?
Are you referring to the national election?
Right. I haven't seen negative ads flying around from the state level, quite like you do with a national level. Are you still kind of involved in a lot of the same, I don't want to say circus, but...
circus would be a nice word for
Are you able to more hone in on the actual policies and the actual
people.
issues?
Yeah, I think so. I'll tell you, I've learned a lot by talking to voters. We literally go and knock on doors. We use a targeted universe. So I'm speaking to unaffiliated voters, Democratic voters, some Republican voters. They target for me everywhere I walk. And I get these consistent responses back, which is people are not happy with the national election, the presidential election. So it gives me an opportunity to talk about state and local issues and races and how we can just set that national stuff aside and let it take its own course. But we want to focus on what's important for Colorado, what's important for Northwest Colorado, and not get caught up in that. So there can be negative things that come out in a state race, just like a local race, but we try to focus more on people's issues, their interests, their needs, focus on what elected officials need to be doing to serve their district.
And a big challenge that, I don't know if it's a challenge or what you'd call it at the national level, is working across the aisle. It seems to get less and less and less, and I know most of the country is frustrated with that.
Right.
You clearly can work across the aisle, if I'm correct, because within your own home you're working across the table.
Yes.
Your husband is a registered Republican and you're a registered Democrat.
And he is a hardcore Republican. I will not be changing him.
I don't want to
and
put you on the
he will
spot.
not be changing me.
Will he be voting Trump?
I don't think I should speak for him.
That's
but
okay, you don't need to.
My husband's a very common sense, rational Republican. People can draw their own conclusions from that. So yeah, we both love politics, and he, loves the Republican point of view. I have always been a lifelong Democrat, but we have no bruises. We are still together. We met in 2002, so I think we both have good skills of trying to find those common interests and needs, and try to set aside those differences. And
anyone watching any of the media coverage would assume that there's not a single point that you guys agree on, one being a Democrat, one being a Republican, but where are some spots you might overlap with
my husband
person
and
that's a
I, well,
Republican?
we both agree that I would be a much better senator than my opponent, just to be frank about it. He's very much a supporter of mine in this race, and was 4 years ago too. Sees that my opponent doesn't necessarily get out in the district much and talk to voters much and serve the voters. So he agrees with me there. And we both, I think we have a lot of common values. We don't maybe talk about values enough, but we both value family and community, and we value honesty, and we value quality of life in Northwest Colorado. So I think there's much more that brings us together than divides us.
Well, that's great. We're going to need to take a quick break, and we'll come back and talk a little more about some other policies and stuff you'd like to see accomplished by being elected to the state Senate. Once again, we're hanging out with Emily Tracy, running for State Senate of Colorado District 8 this November. We'll be back in a moment.